body just magically gets itself back to healthy. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to go back to do the very things I did to get me into the hospital. But it's okay because I could just do this an infinite amount of times and I get my health back 100%. And it was a very big wake up call for me when I realized I'm like, oh, that's not how it works.
Funny that we both got that wrong. Like I got that very wrong. You know,
I think a lot of people do.
it was bad for me, but I still did it because I was drowning at the time. You're on a high because you're out of the office. You want to
You want to spend time with your friends and go party.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, I wasn't able to parent my children. I
Wow.
wasn't there for them. I mean, I was in the hospital trying to get myself back on track and trying to get my health back. So somebody else had to take care of my kids. People that have a lot of money have many problems, but if you don't have your health, you have only one problem.
I actually have two people I know that have cancer right now, and my very close family member who's about to have the bypass. What advice would you give to them?
It's been, what, 13, 14 years? God bless. I'm great.
Welcome to Sustainability for Sinners, a non-judgmental, informative, and hopefully helpful place you can learn about sustainability. I focus on health, water, food, energy, antibiotics, detoxifying your life, and much, much more. If you like what you see, then hit the like and subscribe button for more content coming soon. Enjoy!
Lovely. Welcome, Simone.
Thank you so
How
much,
are you?
Chris. I'm glad to be here and talk.
Yeah, delighted to have you. Could you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Simone. I am a holistic health transformation consultant. So I help people go through transformation back to health, especially for those that have lost their health. I'm a holistic cancer therapies practitioner. So I studied how to approach cancer holistically. So my dad had cancer twice, and I went and I studied so that I could help him. And I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist. So this was the first thing I studied in the holistic field. And I did that for myself. Before we started recording, we were talking about how I had a stroke, and I don't like to say I had a stroke. I don't like to take the disease or whatever health thing and put it next to I, because I don't want it to be connected to me. But a medical event happened to me back in 2011, and that is called stroke in the medical world. And at the same time, I was actually getting divorced. So it was a very significant time. I lost my health. And when I ended up in the hospital, I was there for an extended period of time. And I actually did not get better. I got a lot worse. So I left the hospital. And then when I was home, I started doing research on how to reverse disease. And I stumbled upon how many people actually reverse their diseases just with simple lifestyle and dietary changes. So I thought, well, I'm going to do that. And I did. So in order to be able to structure myself and learn exactly how the body systems work and how to apply the principles of dietary changes and lifestyle changes properly for the intended outcome, I thought, why don't I go and study this so that I can actually do it the right way? I mean, it's life and death here. I wasn't dealing with a minor disease. Strokes usually kill. So I came very close to that too. So I went and I actually studied holistic health. And so holistic nutrition was the first step. And then I started applying that. And then I saw that I had to obviously, like, I helped my dad with the cancer. Then I did I did internship at a cancer center. And then I started working with people. And prior to the holistic world, I actually got my certification in personal training. So I used to teach people how to work out, to be able to get movement in their life, which is important for health as well. So I've been in this health field since about 2007. And of course, like, I mean, I'm a huge believer, as you've seen, we've connected. I'm on social media and I'm trying to spread the word, the importance of diet, the importance of lifestyle, the importance of approaching things holistically. We have to address things to the whole person. So we are not just a body, and we are not just, let's say, for me, it was with the stroke, related to the stroke, I'm not just a brain. I also have heart and lungs. So there's other body systems that also have to be kept healthy because they work in tandem. So it's important to approach things holistically. So the word holistic comes from whole, like the whole person. You have to address the whole person, his lifestyle, his diet, mental state, physical state, community connections. Everything works together. So in a nutshell, that's me.
Great. That's a lot of different hats you carry, Simone. That's a
Yes, but I
lot.
thank you.
But
Thanks, Chris. But it's all under the umbrella of holistic health. And that's actually the core message on my social media. That's the core message on my podcast. And that's the core message of the book that I wrote, that it's really, really important to always approach health holistically and naturally, and to really be attuned and in touch with your body and let it guide you. It always kind of gives us a lot of feedback as to why it's important and what it likes. So for people who are connected, I think you kind of alluded to that, we get so caught up in the rat race of everyday world that we kind of disconnect from ourselves and from who we are, and we kind of put the power in other people's hands, much like what I did. I put my power in the hands of the medical community when I was going through my medical thing with the stroke. And I was sort of like, I'm going to do nothing, you do everything, and I'm just going to sit here and be on the receiving end of the benefits. But it doesn't work like that. And I learned that the hard way. And then once I took the power back and I started applying the principles, then I was on the receiving end of the good.
unreal. That's brilliant.
Hmm.
It's the idea as well of critical thinking, you thinking about
Absolutely.
that stuff and not just expecting somebody else. You've got this, okay, I'll switch my brain off now. There's a standard
Yes.
procedure and you get healthy.
Yes.
Because the unfortunate truth is, many of these times people don't come out of it. And your advice
That's right.
wasn't great after having the stroke, right? You had to go digging to figure it all out. It's just funny because I was quite ill earlier on. We were talking about it, just like kind of a very, yeah, just quite an unhealthy patch in my life. Had to get a hip operation and everything. And
Oh, wow.
I remember an osteopath said to me, and it just stuck with me, that it's never one thing, that got you there. There's multiple issues coming together that landed you in this position, and there's
That's
going to
right.
be multiple answers to get you out of
That's
it again.
right.
And it really stuck with me. Like I was there looking for this one silver bullet solution the whole way through. Um, and I was asking everyone kind of thing like to solve it for me, and then slowly but surely you realize you need to actually start looking at the different parts of your life,
That's
and
right.
how they're actually impacting you
Hmm.
positively or negatively. So yeah, it's funny when I speak to people that have had kind of whatever they go hard on health. It's usually the origin is something bad that happened to them at some point in their life, and it just
Hmm.
snaps them out of it, and they go, "Oh, okay, now health is my priority." And I remember you talking about a quote from Aubrey Marcus about
Oh, yes.
you have a million things to do that are important to you, and then once your health fails, then you have one problem, and that's your
That's
own
right.
priority.
It's
Um,
so
so,
true.
yeah, it's so true.
And it's actually, I think that's an older quote because, and the way that it's kind of set up, it's something I'm paraphrasing because I haven't memorized it in the way that it was actually said. Um, that rich people or people that have a lot of money have many problems, but if you don't have your health, you have only one problem.
Yeah, big
So,
time.
you, and it makes so much sense because I remember when I was in the hospital, if let's say I was a billionaire, if I was in that hospital bed and I was trying to get my life back or I was trying to heal myself, I wouldn't have been able to run a business. I wouldn't have been able, I mean, literally, I wasn't able to parent my children. I
Wow.
wasn't there for them. I mean, I was in the hospital trying to get myself back on track and trying to get my health back. So somebody else had to take care of my kids. So that's why the core message of what I preach to everybody that I work with right now is you really want to work from a preventive measure.
That's
Because
it.
once you lose your
Yeah.
health, like just think of how many things you've lost. Number one. Number two, you traumatize your loved ones. I mean, like, I can't even imagine. One of the biggest factors that had me driving forward is, and I remember I tell people this all the time. When it happened, I remember I was in the hospital and I was thinking, and I had a visual of it. I visualized myself in a coffin, so I would have died. And then I could see in my visualization my two young children, because they were very young at the time, my two young children looking down at me. And I could feel the devastation in them in that moment, like just how their whole world they just lost their mom. And mom is like your number one person, especially when you're young, because your whole universe consists of your family. So I thought, oh my God, I'm like the trauma that I would cause these kids if something happens to me. So it was a very big wake up call. And I really want people to understand it from that perspective. And I said this in a message because I get a lot of messages on Instagram. So I, based on what I post, and of course, again, it's health related. So I get a lot of messages on Instagram. So I try to dispense as much information as I can. And I was talking to this woman um, and I said, you know how much harder it is to come back from a disease than to prevent the disease?
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you're going to put it, let's say, if I can give the message of, or to, give you an example, it's like if you were to, let's say, every day you have to put in $1, or if you spend every day and then further down the line, somebody comes and says, okay, give me $275,000 right now in one shot. That's literally how it is. Like every day you either put in $1, so every day you invest in your health little by little through your decisions and through what you eat, through your lifestyle, or you just, pardon the French, piss it all away. And then fast forward in however many years, depending on when your time comes, you're going to have to fork out,
Pay the dues.
an exorbitant amount of money to recover your health. And that's if it's a big if, because it's much like how it is for the people that, when you have those people that have drug overdoses, you never know what's the right amount that your body can, like, once you get past that point, you actually die, or you go into a coma.
That's with
So you
pressure.
never know.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
health, it's like that too. You never know. Are you past the point of no return, or are you able to get yourself back? Because if you're in dire straits, the amount of work, I mean, you cannot do a job, you cannot pay attention to your family, you cannot run a business, you cannot be active within your community. You literally make that be your life. So there's nothing else. And the amount of money that you have to invest. I mean, for example, if you're going to work with a practitioner and you have to pay out of pocket, but then the food that you have to eat, the amount of things that you have to do to be able to get the body back. People think that, and I'm not blaming anybody here because I thought the same thing. It's okay, I'm gonna go to the hospital
Yeah.
and they're gonna give me
Yeah. They've got it.
pills or
Yeah.
inject stuff in me. And
Yeah.
then once they do that, my body just magically gets itself back to healthy. And
Exactly.
then I'm going to go home and I'm going to go back to do the very things I did to get me into the hospital. But it's okay because I could just do this
Rinse,
an
repeat.
infinite amount of
Yeah.
times and I
Yeah.
get my health back 100%. And it was a very big wake up call for me when I realized, I'm like, oh, that's not how it works.
Funny that we both got that wrong. Like I got that very wrong. You just
I think a
ignore
lot of people do.
and you spend a lot of time not listening to your gut. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like your body, if you really listen, it's telling you there's something off or you're
Hmm.
fine. And
Yeah.
and you become an expert at suppressing it. Those emotions are gone or, ignored.
Yeah.
You're too busy. You're too busy. You're in the cycle of things. And someday you might get to it. Someday you might correct the
Oh.
hip imbalance, or someday you might start eating healthier, sleeping better. In my worst time, at my busiest, I was drinking 8 cups of coffee a day, and I swear to God that I
Me
did
too.
not. I was, and I knew it was bad for me, but I still did it because I was drowning at the time in the work I was doing. I was like,
Yeah.
just get to the next life raft, and then on the weekends I'll recuperate. But then the weekends come and you're on a high because you're out of the office. You want to
You want to
you
spend
want to
time with your
enjoy
friends and
yourself.
go party.
Yeah, exactly. So you just like press that self-destruct button on top of it. That's one that I still press the self-destruct button on quite regularly, but the rest of the life is healthier, so that I have a bit more of a cushion, so that you have more recovery time. If you're eating healthier, all of these things kind of give you that cushion,
Yeah,
that the weekend, if you have a late night kind of thing, won't do as much damage to you. But my God, like you can go really down a wrong path and stop listening to your own health, your own body,
very true.
and the indicators. Um, so what what how has that changed you now, Simone? Like what do you do differently yourself in your personal life to, I don't know, stay healthy holistically? Do you eat well? Do you
Oh, so different. Everything. I mean, literally, there's something else, and I don't think I've posted it yet, but I really intend to. I try to put as many kind of really inspirational things in my stories on Instagram, and my usual posts, my reels are more, hey, here's a doctor who's telling you this, that, and the other. So, one really inspirational thing that I saw that really hit me, and I really want to share it with everybody. It says that you first have to die to be able to become who you always had to be. So basically, I had to kill the old version of myself. And I know that sounds very morbid, but it is true. You have to really eliminate. And Dr. Dispenza is actually
oh,
um, really great at this, because that is basically the underlying tone of what he says. In order to become healthy, you have to sort of become the healthy person. So you can no longer be the sick person and get healthy. You just can't. You can't have both of them. So that's basically what I aimed to do. And this is how I look at myself right now. So with that stroke, the old me died. And remember, I told you it was just, and I talked about it in my book, because I was battling so many thoughts. So I really had to kind of come face to face with the idea that what I was doing is what got me there.
yeah,
And if I continue to do what I was doing, it's going to get me there again and again and again and again. But that whole thought of being able to see my kids looking down at me in a coffin scared me straight. So I had to get rid of that person. And I remember, so if you read my book, you will see what I did. And I remember the because I explain it in detail. When I made the decision, like when you make a decision, I had like a surge of energy. And I decided from that point forward, and you really have to do this from that point forward, like that me is gone and the new me begins. So yes, absolutely. When I went back home, I first and foremost, I became grateful for what I had. There's so much power in gratitude. So I became grateful for the life that I had and the things that I had and the things that I had acquired. Um, the house, I was just taking things for granted, because just like you and I were talking about, like I was just running on the hamster wheel, looking forward to the next thing, looking to the external world constantly for the validation, for the happiness, for the fulfillment, without even looking around at all the beautiful things that like I had near me. You
yeah,
know, the family, the beautiful surroundings, the house, the beautiful furniture I had in the house that I was enjoying, and the beautiful bed I was sleeping on.
yeah,
And so I ditch the mentality. So mindset was huge. And then everything from the mindset is kind of driven because it was my mind that was said, hey, you know what? You cannot eat the way you used to eat. So I kind of adopted a different way of eating. And of course, a very different lifestyle. And I'll tell you as an aside, I used to do exactly what you just described. I used to drink probably, if I was to put the amount together, I was probably drinking over a liter of coffee a day, a
Wow.
liter. So when I went to school,
That's a lot.
now I know this obviously because I studied it, and that's why I'm so happy that I actually went to school. So coffee leaches so much of your magnesium out
Oh,
of your body, like a lot. And
wow.
of course, it dehydrates you and you pee a lot, right? Like, so when you pee, you eliminate a lot of your electrolytes, right? And magnesium is one of them. And of course, there's sodium, which is salt, and then there's potassium, and there's the sodium, potassium, and magnesium, calcium, right?
Yeah.
So they work in balance. They have to balance each other out. So imagine, like with all that coffee, you dehydrate yourself, you eliminate all of your. That's why I was getting headaches. So a lot of the people they come and they say like, well, you probably dehydrated. Um, so of course I ditched the coffee. Like I don't drink coffee anymore.
Not at all.
I'm sorry,
Not at all.
not at all. No.
Wow.
No, because I mean, once in a blue moon, I'll enjoy it. But then
Yeah.
I know I'm like, okay, for every cup of coffee, I have to drink at least 2 cups of water. And I have to have salt in that water to make sure that I get all my electrolytes back.
Okay.
So I know how to mitigate it now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't make a habit of it because I know it's addictive. I know it gets me jittery. Every time I drink it, my heart palpitates because my receptors are no longer saturated with caffeine. Whereas before I was drinking over a liter a day. I mean,
Wow.
coffee was water for me, literally.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so and it was like I was running on it. So my sleep was disturbed, right?
Yeah.
I was constantly like on a high. My nervous system was hijacked. Like I was not calm and relaxed. My body could not go in a calm and relaxed state.
Yeah.
So, of course, so I changed my diet, and then I changed my lifestyle. So I started going to bed a lot earlier. I scaled back on the crazy workouts I was doing, and I was very regimented. And I had tendencies of perfectionism. So I was counting all my calories. I was counting, like I was taking account of everything I was eating,
Mhm.
and I wasn't allowing myself to enjoy things. So that rigidity is actually not good at all. Not
Yeah, it's
at all.
counterintuitive, isn't it? Yeah.
So that's why I try to stay away from, and you see this a lot on social media right now, and I see it and I try to stay away and I don't even really engage much in conversation. But the vegan world was very cultish like that. Because if let's say you were to say, "Ugh, like, I'm just going to go have a piece of fish," they'd be like, oh my God, you this. And they just crucify you. And the same thing that carnivore people do. Like now, if you say that, oh, I had a piece of bread, they'd be like, oh, you, yeah, and they just crucify you. So that kind of negativity, not good for you.
Wow.
So that's why I try to stay away from if you go in either direction too much. Yeah, like
Yes.
that's terrible. You
Hmm.
have to be in balance. So those are the 3 pillars of health that I changed. And I'm a big believer that health kind of rests on those things: your mindset, your diet, because obviously what you put in the body shows up on the body and in the body. So if, for example, you constantly eat crap and then you get cancer somewhere inside the body, whether you ate well or not kind of probably counts towards the fact that that cancer showed up. Or, if you slathered your skin in chemicals and then you get, skin cancer, well, there's a connection there, right? So it's important to really take into account
And you're
what
not
you do
talking
to the
about,
vessel. And then, of course, lifestyle. Like I said, it's very important to have good connections to people, to your community, great relationships that are positive energy. Um, Slow down, not be so, A type personality driven. You're always running and never taking time for self care. So those are the three things that I did. So that old Simone that was running a different life, a different diet, a different mentality is gone.
Great. That's
Yeah,
definitely motivation for anyone listening.
it's work.
So many things to talk about there, but one of the things that the penny just dropped with me about coffee with the magnesium depletion,
Yes.
I have quite tight muscles, like they just
Yeah.
tighten a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and what like this was just before I had the hip operation. Um, my muscles were so tight, and I actually thought alcohol was like, a time off where I'd get to sleep well. And then the day after, the night's sleep was horrendous. Or like still is horrendous for me, but it took me a long time to notice. And then somebody said, "Oh, it depletes magnesium levels in your body, the alcohol."
Yep.
And
Hmm.
like I'm Irish, so I don't really take just one drink when I'm out or two. It's quite heavy, like. But it made me realize, oh my God, it's the alcohol the day after where my magnesium levels are down, that the muscles start tightening. And what you described with the jittery nervous system, I still have that, definitely. And probably the tight muscles that I do have, I always thought it was just working out, but it's probably a lot of it is because I do a lot of stretching and all that stuff. I'm sure a lot of it is down to the coffee as well. Uh,
Yeah. So magnesium is a relaxant. And if you
yeah.
see a lot of people who suffer with people that I've worked with, even people like when you drink a lot of coffee, so you obviously pee a lot because it dehydrates you. The colon actually needs to extract water to be able to make your stool soft enough that you could pass it without straining and without. But
Mhm.
if you don't have enough water, a lot of people become constipated and they can't go to the washroom. So, oftentimes, a very simple solution, aside from, of course, drink more water, you need to be hydrated, is
Yeah.
take a little bit of magnesium so that your colon is not tight, just like you described your muscles, like, all tight and constricted. And then once it relaxes, now there's more space and you're able to get that flow so that you can actually eliminate.
Yeah.
And it is waste and needs to be eliminated. Otherwise, I mean, for anybody who's ever been constipated, it's the most uncomfortable thing. So, yeah, magnesium is so important, and people cannot make the connections. This kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, holistic, right? Like one thing is connected to another. And a lot of people think that, oh, well, I drink coffee, but it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm constipated, or it has nothing to do with the fact that my muscles are tight. It has nothing to do with the fact that I have a headache. What does that have to do with my head? What does that have to do with my colon? How does the head and the colon, how are they connected? They're connected by the lack of magnesium. They're connected by the dehydration. So there's so many of these things that anybody who's a holistic practitioner, so naturopathic doctors would be able to identify this. All of my friends from school that are in the holistic community. So anybody who went to school to study anything holistic, like nutrition or any kind of holistic practice, would be able to make these connections because this is how they teach us.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. That just say your medical doctor, um, who's busy, probably sees you for 15 minutes at a time because he's got a
Yeah,
room full of patients, he or she. Um, they'll do the list of things like, what are you doing there? What's that like? And then gone.
yeah,
Whereas they don't have the time either to think about the different parts of your life, and that's why it's so valuable to have someone to actually talk about the different aspects of your life
yeah.
that could be feeding into your issues.
Very
And
true.
so yeah, no, I remember, sorry, side story. I went to Mexico backpacking then. I just wanted to get out of the rat race. Booked a one-way ticket, and I went to a physio who was it was way cheaper than the physios in Germany that I was going to, and he spent 45 minutes with me talking about stuff, and I probably got more done to improve my health in the 45 minutes talking to him than the rushed thing I ever got done with a GP. You know, he really
Yeah.
asked me all the questions that needed to be asked for me to think about it and to connect the dots for how they all fed into the one issue. So it's amazing, like, you know, you can boast that Germany's a highly developed country, strong economy, and you would think that it would have all these kind of health practitioners all very well aligned, that they'll all give you great advice very quickly and you'll figure it out. And then lo and behold, I go to a small town in
Yeah.
Mexico and I get the best advice of my life that probably, you know, improve my life by 20% in quality of life. So
If we were to be able to go back to our roots and be able to do things, and you would think that humanity's, we've advanced and evolved so much that in our wisdom and the ability to harness so much that's out there, we would be able to leverage everything that's available to us, but still be able to be grounded enough
yeah,
to
yeah,
think of all the things that and look back on it to see what served us well and just what you described. It's so much more, health is so much more sustainable when you approach it in the way that you just described. And I do the same thing when I work with people. I book my intake is 90 minutes, so that's an hour and a half. And we discuss all things
yeah.
that the person is going through. And it's never an hour and a half. It's always like over 2 hours. But because a lot of times people really need to talk about what's ailing them. A
Mm,
lot of stuff is like weighing heavily on them. There's a lot of unresolved emotional things that are attached to their illness or sickness.
mm,
And that's the only way that we're going to be able to sustain health. The only way. I mean, as you could see, the more we've rushed, the more sick we've become. And the more we try to run after the carrot outside in the outside world, the sicker we are in the inside world.
mm.
It's just not sustainable.
When we're talking about this rock bottom phase in our lives,
Hmm.
what advice would you give to someone who's going through it right now in this very moment? What we're describing, someone is actually going through loads of cups of coffee. Maybe their health is failing. Maybe they're, I don't know, a myriad of issues. What's the advice you'd give someone?
Well, first and foremost, you have to really believe and love yourself enough that you're going to want to start over so that you can end this destructive cycle. And I think before you started recording, I was telling you if you don't do it, life is going to say, hey, stop. And life says, hey, stop when it shows you that you're not feeling well, you get sick often, or you have all of these things that are constantly bothering you. You go to the doctor and the doctor said, oh, you have this and you're constipated and you're not sleeping well and you're this and you're taking a pill for that. And here's a pill for this. And you see that it's just on the decline and the decline. That's literally your body and life telling you, like, hey, whatever you're doing is just not working for you. And you keep going with that. And then life says, hey, stop. And you don't stop. And then life is going to say, okay, like if I don't stop you, you're going to kill yourself. So then life kind of steps in, and you see a lot of this. Um, and life steps in to stop you. And usually that shows up as cancer, that shows up as a heart attack, that shows up as Alzheimer's, that shows up as a stroke. It shows up as something, or people go like they lose their mental health. They're depressed, they're not able to function, they're non functioning. So love yourself enough to be able to take inventory of your life to say, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling good about the way things are. And what are some of the things that, and if you sit down with yourself, so I did this exercise and it's so valuable. It's difficult, especially in today's world, but it's so valuable and it works 100% of the time. If you were to sit with yourself, no phone, no book, no notebook, no journaling, no TV, just sit in silence alone without distractions. So Just sit in your bed or sit on your couch. This is how I did it, looking at the walls. And of course, in the first 20 minutes, I was itching to get my phone to check, and I wanted to go get something to drink. And I was constantly just itching to do it. But if you sit with yourself for an hour, so 60 minutes, if you could do more, even better, every single answer will come to you because your mind is, you're going to seek in your mind. You're like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? If you could just sit in silence,
Getting that
the
space.
answer comes.
Yeah. It's getting the space from the outside world to
That's
just
right.
be able to think clearly,
That's right.
listen
Because
to
you're no longer giving the attention and the energy to the phone, and you're not giving it to a book, and you're not giving it to anything. You're just sitting there, and that energy is going to come back and it's going to give you the answer you're looking to get. So if you do an inventory, the answers to what ail you or what you should do will come to you. But for the most part, if it's going to be health related, oftentimes, as I said, the three pillars of health. So it's going to be mindset. You're going to have to look at life in a very different way. If you're drinking coffee and you see that it's not serving you and you're not feeling well and you're hurting or you're aching, you should tell yourself, I'm worth more than this. I'm going to make a change, and every day motivate yourself. And if you need help, there's a full YouTube world out there that has all of these incredible motivational speeches and videos that every day say you're worth it, go do it. And trust me, I use those when in my darkest times, when during my stroke time. So the mindset, and then there's the diet, and that's going to take time, and it's going to take an investment. I see a lot of people, they invest in all kinds of crazy things. You know, you see people buying the latest, shiniest, this, that, and the other to show the world that they are successful, yet they don't want to invest in good quality food to give themselves the gift of health. So they abuse their own body in which they live in this experience here for the sake of having, I don't know, a purse, a pair of shoes, a hat, a jersey, whatever the case may be, to show the world what? That they have money to buy a piece of clothing, whereas health is just one. So invest in your health, and it's such a great investment to eat clean, organic foods that are beneficial to your health. So there's the mindset, there's the diet, and then there's the lifestyle. You really have to make decisions to forego all of the things that you put above your health, much like what you and I were doing before, right? We were kind of chasing after the career. I wanted to, you know, push aside, it's okay, I'll work through lunch, or it's okay, I'm just going to put in another 2-3 hours. And you kind of erode your health for the benefit of that thing. And then once the health is gone, that thing can no longer be had because, well, you can only have it if you have health. That's
Yeah.
the only way you could go to the office and work 16 hours if you're healthy. But the 16 hours will erode your health, and then you're not going to be able to do the 16 hours anymore. So you have to adjust your lifestyle as well. Super important to get movement, because that's the only way we can oxygenate the blood and the tissues, and it's the only way you can move the lymphatic system to be able to eliminate all the waste out of the body so that the body can stay clean. So movement is important. That's part of lifestyle. Eliminate all the crap and all the toxic stuff out of your home. It's cleaning supplies. Eliminate all like plastics that disrupt your endocrine system, which disrupts your hormones. Eliminate all things that do not serve you. Go to sleep early so that all the repairing that the body does, which it only does at night when we sleep, when there's rest. Otherwise, the body has to kind of do all the functions, keep you alert so that when you cross the street, you're not going to get hit by a car, and, you know, be able to perform at work and eat and process the food. The body has to do a lot during the day. However, when we sleep, which is the whole point of sleep, the body does all the detoxification, it does all the cleaning, it does all the repairing, it moves all the things out of the way so that they can be eliminated out of the body. which is why we poop in the morning. The body's actually, or we pee, the body has actually taken everything, filtered everything, and said, okay, now eliminate this and we start anew.
Yeah.
So don't start that whole cycle all over again. So if you could sit with yourself before life forces you, like it did me through that stroke, sit and take inventory to say, you know what? I'm getting older. I have kids that need me. I want to be able to see my grandkids. I want to be able to spend time with them. It's really important for me to have my family and for my family to have me.
Mhm.
I'm going to actually make a change before life forces your hand. Because trust me, when we don't listen, life forces us on our knees. Like I remember when I had my stroke, oh, I was like in my head, I was praying, like, God, please, if just give me this chance. I'm never going to do this again. Of course, I kept my promise, but you don't ever want to be in the position where you have to beg for your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Important to do it proactively.
How long ago was that stroke?
2011.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's quite some time. And it's so funny because one of the things that the doctors were telling me, and God bless doctors because some of them are just so great, God given. They were saying after you have one stroke, you're at a very high risk of a second one, and the second one's going to definitely kill you
Mhm.
because the first one was so, you know, like bad that I ended up in the hospital and so on and so forth. And that was the driving message. Second one's going to kill you. You're a very high risk. Second one's going to kill you. You're at very high risk. So, yeah, so 2011. And now obviously it's been what, 13, 14 years. God bless. I'm great. But you do
It's
have to make the changes to be able to get your health back.
sorry, but you explaining all that to someone who's at rock bottom, the take home message is I feel much better right now. When was it? 2017, 18 when I had the surgery. Feel much better right now. And you're an absolute success story. Like
Thank you.
you went from the busy go-getter and then this massive wallop to your health that almost took you out of the game kind of thing. And now
Hmm.
you're here as strong as you've probably ever been,
Yes.
living a good life, you know?
Yes.
That's amazing. I wanted people to hear that message, that you can turn all these things around as long as you're dedicated enough to it and you start really actively really taking action,
Yeah.
not just hoping or saying, well, this is my life now. That there's so many things you can do to just improve your quality of life overall. And also, if you reduce the pain or whatever you're going through, everything is better. Uh, and when you're in pain, you can be on the nicest holiday or whatever it is, and it's worthless. I remember looking at photos of my family coming to visit me in Germany, and I remember like looking at it going, Jesus, it looks nice, but I was having a really bad day, big smile on my face and everything, but I was in pain. And when you're in that much pain, you can't really enjoy it. So it's like I'd love to shake people that are younger and go, be careful, like don't go too hard on whatever the weights or whatever it is, whatever
Oh,
motivational
yes.
video you're seeing to like all those messages are basically the opposite. Don't listen to your body. Drive through the pain, drive through the whatever. And that there is probably a lot to be said for pushing through and being strong when you need to be, and persevering. But there's a threshold and there's doing things wrong and just keeping doing them. And you go further and further down the line, and then all of a sudden you're in pain. And when I look back on my youth, where I didn't realize that when you get older, if you do damage to your body, you have more pain, and that impacts your everything. you know, the quality of your life is just hanging on that one thing.
Yeah.
It's like a lens or a shade, like the rose tinted glasses where you see
Yep.
everything.
So true.
Put on the pain spectacles, and literally everything goes down a few percent or quite a significant amount, where you just it's very hard to enjoy life when you're in that pain or in that whatever it is that's hitting you hard. So
Yeah, and I see, so at the gym, I see that a lot of the gym that I go to, and usually I go sort of at a time when all the kids from high school get let out and they come to the gym, and God bless them because they're not out doing drugs or they're not out,
mhm,
you know,
yeah,
causing trouble or doing anything crazy, but they come to the gym and they work out together and I see them and sometimes I watch them. So as an FYI, the deadlift is one of the most damaging exercises. I mean, it's first of all, it's a compound, so you using multiple joints, multiple muscles to be able to execute on that exercise, and it's one that actually a lot of people get injured. So that's one of the top risk exercises for injury. And I see these young kids, and of course, it's usually boys. Girls are much gentler with themselves. They just want to, look good. But
yeah,
guys want to be strong and big. And I see them trying to move insane amounts of weight that are completely outside of their ability.
yeah,
Um, and I
yeah,
don't think they recognize how um, delicate and vulnerable their tissues are that are still developing. So, for example, uh, the discs,
mm,
when I see that, I'm like, oh man, it's great because you probably feel strong. But if you damage any of your discs in your back, like in any vertebrae, anything, like
yeah,
especially in your lower back, so in your lumbar section, and you have to go and get surgery, you're not going to be able to step foot in the gym for months
yeah,
in recovery. And then you're never going to be able to do what you're doing right now. And if anything, you're probably not going to be able to do this exercise to the degree you're doing it right now. And you'll never be able to know your potential because you're going to have to constantly be tiptoeing on eggshells to make sure that you take really good care of the very thing you damage so that you don't damage it again because now it's much weaker, especially because you damaged it during development. So it's so important that people recognize that.
yeah,
And I know that even for myself, when I lost everything, so for those people that have things in their life, so if you have a family that supports you and you, let's say you get sick, oh my God, you're so blessed. If you have, let's say, a job that affords you that ability. When that happened to me, and of course I talk about it in the book. So stroke came, I was getting divorced. So selling the house that I had known to be home. So I lost the house. Not lost it, but the house was gone. My home was gone. So house in the physical form, and then home, which is where I felt was like my home. I wasn't able to work, so I lost my ability to work. So that was gone. Two major things. My marriage was gone. So the very thing that anchored me to life was my marriage because it was like the family I had created, the life I had built, the things we had bought together. And then, so I lost my ability to work. I lost the house. I lost the marriage. And I lost the ability to be with my kids because I was in the hospital trying to get better. Wasn't able to spend time with my friends. Couldn't go to the gym, which I loved because it was like life for me. So everything that I was passionate about, my family, my friends, my job, my house, and my marriage, all gone at the same time. It's like somebody came, and that's why I explained to you earlier, and I really want this to come across to the listeners. When life comes to stop you because you're on the wrong path, Life does not mess around. And I'm sure that life said to me, "Oh, yeah, Simone?" And it pulled the rug from under my feet. And I just like went into free fall. So here I was in the hospital trying to get myself back on track because I'm like, oh my God, I have to like I nearly died. Jesus, that's like big. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, my like I can't go to work, which was like social and I had friends and I had purpose and every day I had my structure. I couldn't see the people at the gym anymore. That was my community. I'm like, oh my God, that's gone. Marriage, gone. My ability to see my kids, have lunch, dinner, or whatever with them, and they were little, gone. Family, like I was never gonna live with my husband and be with my kids as a family unit anymore, gone. So every single big significant aspect of life was gone, including my health. So every single pillar of life came to take from me. It's big. So I really want people to understand if you have things in your life, this is why I was talking that mindset's important. If you have things in your life, like if you have a family, if you have a marriage, a relationship, whatever it may be, if you have a job, if you have a business, oh my God, don't let life take those from you. Don't, because it's so precious. And when it's gone, that saying, it's so cliche, but it's so true. You don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Yeah.
That was me. I was like, I have this and I have this. It's there. Yeah. And when I come home, it's there. It's there. It's there. And then when it was gone, it's not there. I'm like, what?
Have you ever heard that with gratitude, it's almost like when you practice gratitude, it's like you're giving yourself presents that that have always been there, but you're like, oh, I'm so grateful for this.
That's
Thanks.
right.
It's like
Yeah.
amazing presents that
Yeah.
you are gifted just once you tune into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, unreal.
And as they say, when it comes to gratitude, if you practice gratitude and every day you say, oh, I'm so grateful that I have, a wonderful family. And I'm so grateful I have my great car and I love my house and I love this. And the universe is, or life, or whatever you believe in, is going to say, oh, I could give you more of that.
Yeah,
Here's more to be grateful for. Here's more, here's
good
more, here's
energy.
more, here's more.
Yeah,
Whereas if you, in the opposite direction, if you're going to be sort of on the negative aspect, on the negative side of things, and you're constantly complaining, you're like, oh, I have a shitty boss and I have this and I have, you know, life just sucks and I need to, drink to keep up. Life is going to say, oh, here's more to be worried
yeah.
about. Here's more to
It's like
be,
steps down.
upset about. Yeah, like the universe is just going to give you more of the very thing that you keep putting at the forefront of your energy. So, like what I think it was Henry Ford who said, like, whether you're this or that, it's your choice. Like, it's the same thing. The amount of energy you put in investing in your health or investing in your disease is equal. Like, you're either going to go shit on your health or you're going to be able to go and invest in your health. You still have to spend money. Like, to go party to damage your health, you have to spend money on alcohol. You
Yeah,
have to spend money
big
on
money.
whatever it is that you do, because a lot of people do a lot of things to damage their health: drugs, alcohol, partying, lack of sleep. All of that is an investment.
Yeah, yeah,
But if you need to buy clean, organic food and go to sleep on time, that's also an investment. So,
yeah, yeah.
what do you want to invest
What
in?
are you investing in?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, you being coming from the investment world,
well,
you can speak to that.
it's really funny, and I am going to quote you in the book that I'm writing. There's a point you made about the return on investment of
ROI, yeah.
organic eating, and I was like, nice. That's a good way to put it. Um,
Yeah.
can you speak about that a little bit because you broke it down so well? You lived in the US and Canada, so you had two healthcare systems to compare.
Yes.
And the way you put it, it was so smart. How, like, the perception of organic food often, even including myself, I'll still do it. I go, geez, that's expensive, and it'll still
Yep.
need to buy it. And I wrestle with myself regularly. And I told you my mother had an organic shop. Uh,
Yes,
but
which is amazing.
even I look at stuff and go, oh, that's expensive. But then if I really consider the return on investment, like you put it, huh,
That's right.
um, it's like you have to remind yourself if you struggle with it like I do to convince myself all the time, then you do have to keep it in the back of your mind what you're
Yeah.
about to say now about the return on investment. Sorry, if you could explain it, that'd be great.
Yeah. So return on investment, or ROI, as they say in the investment world, in the financial world, works exactly the same when it comes to health, because what you put into it, you get out of it. So I see, and I kind of spoke a little bit about this. I see a lot of people, and in my practice, when I was working with people, I would have a lot of times I worked with women. I had a lot of women come to me, and not that I'm trying to shame anybody, but I wanted them to see the importance of it. They would come to me and they would be very unhealthy, or they were dealing with something, um, like an illness, a diagnosis. They wanted to reverse it or get rid of it. So we would have this conversation about, like, okay, it's going to take work and you're going to have to put the work in it to get what you want to get out of it. So what's your intended outcome? So if you were to be an investment and you say, well, I want to make money, most people are going to say, well, I want to be healthy. Okay, so that's the equal aspect. Okay, great. You want to make money, so you're going to have to invest X amount of dollars. Great. You want to get healthy, you're going to have to invest time and effort so that you could get back to health. Great. What's the time and what's the effort? Okay. The time is that you're going to have to prepare your meals. You can't go out and buy junk food. You can't go out and buy crap
Yeah.
that's highly refined and processed, because that's going to damage your health, which is why you're here, because that's what you've been doing until now.
Mhm.
So it's going to take time, it's going to take effort. So you're going to have to go and put in the work to get back your health. And it's also going to take money, because that food that you have to put in your body that's going to give you the health that you're looking to get has to be clean, and it has to give you the nutrients. The body is looking for building materials. And in another one of the podcasts that I did, look at it as if you're trying to build a portfolio, an investment, or if you're trying to build a house. You need to have the raw materials to build a house. You need to have wood, you need to have cement, you need to have, let's say, what you're going to put on the floor, whether it's going to be hardwood floors, you're going to have your cabinets, you're going to have carpet, you're going to have a sink, you're going to have a toilet, so on and so forth. Those are all the raw materials. Bricks. The body does exactly the same thing. It uses nutrients to be able to build cells, body systems, organ systems, and of course, like all the things that run those things. So a lot of the things that govern us are our hormones. We need to have nutrients for those hormones. We need to have nutrients for neurotransmitters, for mental health. We need to have enzymes to be able to help us digest. So if you don't give your body what it needs, those nutrients from clean foods, you're not going to be able to get health. Just like if you're not going to put money in that account that you want to grow, you're not going to be able to have a return back, like later down the line. And a lot of people think of food as, well, I'm just going to go to McDonald's and that's food. That is not food. Like, would you be able to go to the bank with monopoly money and say, here, I'm here to invest? The bank is going to laugh at you. They're going to say, no, sir,
Yeah.
you're not going to get anything out of this. We're not going to accept that. The same works in health. You cannot go and eat McDonald's. You cannot eat, I don't know, donuts and cookies and chips. And you can't drink juices out of those plastic things. None of those things are food, and none of those things hydrate you. None of them. The only thing that's considered food in its true definition is what Mother Nature makes. So, has anybody ever seen chips grow on a tree or in a bush, or does it grow out of the earth? No. So, if it doesn't grow on a tree, in a bush, or out of the earth, it's not food.
Mhm.
So, the things that you see in packages with all kinds of ingredients, those are not food. Broccoli is made out of broccoli. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not made out of, seed oils or vegetable oils and packaged and, with preservatives or any of that stuff. So if you're extremely sick and you're looking to reclaim your health, you absolutely need to give the body every single nutrient it can get. And you don't want, especially for people with cancer, you do not want to mix it with, especially if, let's say, if you're looking at blueberries. Let's say I'm going to eat food in its true definition. I'm going to eat blueberries. Fantastic. But if you're going to eat blueberries that are sprayed with pesticides and all kinds of chemicals, those chemicals are actually cancer causing, and you already have cancer that your body's trying to fight. So those blueberries are not going to be able to mitigate what's already there, the existing cancer, and now mitigate the damage that you're going to sustain from the chemicals. So, isn't it in your best interest to invest in things that are going to increase, just like it is an investment, increase your chances of being able to reclaim your health by eliminating additional damage? So, a lot of the women that used to come to me, they would come with like very expensive purses, expensive cars, yet food was so expensive to them. And I thought, what is the ROI on that purse? And I have asked. I would say, okay, let's do an inventory. What does that purse give you that you could say, I invested the money in this and I'm getting this in return on investment, right? So you invest in a purse and you get what in return? You get what? Bragging, right? Somebody's going to look at you for a fleeting moment, like a split second, and say, oh, nice purse. And that's it. Or, oh, nice car. And that's it. But if you're going to be investing in food and now all of a sudden you're going to be able to get your health back and you're going to be able to go and make more money. And trust me when I tell you, if you are sick, and anybody could say this, and I've had conversations like this with people. If you are sick and you look sick, and most people, health shows, and so does illness.
Mhm.
If you are sick and you walk down the street, so let's say you're full of inflammation and you're overweight and you have issues and your hair is kind of falling out, so you don't, even your tissues are showing, your skin looks really terrible. You can't go down the street with a really nice, expensive purse and people look at you and say, oh, look at her.
Mhm.
But if you do have health and you look great and you're not full of inflammation and you're full of life and vibrancy, even if you're carrying a $20 purse, people are still going to look at you and think so much more of your health. It's going to be so much more impressive.
Yeah.
So, what we put in the body shows on the body. So, your body gives back to you based on what you put in it. Just like if you put money in an account rather than constantly take out of the account,
Mhm.
you're going to be able to get a lot out of it. And I tell a lot of people, I was talking to one of my clients the other day and I said, whatever you're doing right now to damage yourself, you're borrowing from your future because the disease is going to show down the line. Cancer works like that. It's typically like it accumulates because a lot of times people are like, oh, in my 50s, I got cancer. And it's like, well, that cancer didn't start yesterday. It didn't fall out of the sky. That probably started when you were in your 30s. Very small changes at cellular level. And eventually, the technology that we have today is able to detect it now. Like, and that goes across the board for breast cancer, for cervical cancer, for any of the cancers. So important, especially it's important to eat clean organic food. And I put a lot of that in my social media posts. It's important to eat organic food all the time. And that's rightfully how we should eat. And it's unfortunate that we have to be battling against the powers that be that have made it that everything is sprayed with crap, and we have to make sure that we sift through what's clean and what's not. But fundamentally, I'll tell you this, if you eat clean, and I'm talking about foods that are actually full of nutrients, you're not going to eat a lot. A lot of the times people eat a lot of empty calories because they're not nourishing. There's no nutrients in those foods. So you eat chips, you raise your blood sugar, or cookies or chips or muffins or whatever it is. You raise your blood sugar, and all of a sudden now you've opened the gates to your to wanting to eat, right? You have an appetite. You've opened the gates to the appetite. You eat something, and your body, okay, so I'm going to walk you through the stages. Even when you smell something, so you walk into McDonald's and you smell food, all of a sudden your digestive system kind of gets triggered to say like, oh, food's coming. So now you start to secrete digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid in your stomach. So your body is now readying itself for digestion, like food is coming.
Yeah.
So you've just triggered a system to start working. Great. And you eat something that is nothing more than empty calories and a whole bunch of ingredients, which are typically chemicals. They're not even real. And you take those in, and your body's like, I don't have any material to break this down because I don't even recognize it. What exactly is red dye number 40? I don't have an enzyme to break that down. So what it does is it takes it and it shoves it into a tissue. A lot of times it goes into fat tissues. So if we have fat into the fat cells, everything gets shoved in there because it's literally the safest place where anything can be put. When those get saturated and you continue to do the same thing, now the body's going to start storing it into organs, which is why a lot of people get a lot of cancers in organs. Like, oh, I have a tumor on my whatever it may be. So once you start the digestive system and you keep eating foods that have no nutrients, or you go to the bank and you keep putting monopoly dollars, monopoly money into the machine, you're not going to be increasing the money on your bank account. So you're not going to be putting in anything in the body that's of value, no nutrients. And all of a sudden, you're going to continue to be hungry because you're undernourished but overfed. You probably have heard that there's a lot of that has been said. So you keep eating. That's why a lot of people keep eating and getting, obese, fat. They have diabetes because we keep eating the things that are not food. Yet if we were to eat the organic food that you just mentioned, and they are full of nutrients, and the body's like, oh my God, this thing is full of the nutrients I need, I'm good. I mean, ask anybody to go and eat a lot of broccoli. Nobody can overeat broccoli. Nobody on planet Earth can overeat broccoli. You simply just cannot. It's your body system, and the food, the real food, is not made that could ever happen. Do you think you're going to keep eating like bowls and bowls and bowls of salad? No, but you see a lot of people keep eating chip after chip after chip after chip and cookie after cookie. Oh, you hear people are like, oh, I ate a whole box of cookies. My goodness, what's your body going to do with all that sugar and all the cookies? Zero value. So if we were to switch to eating organic foods, you're not going to have to buy as much. So ditch all the crap like cookies, chips, muffins, all of that stuff that's not food, that is money that you're spending, and you actually take that money and you invest it in real food that's organic. You're not going to have to buy or eat as much. You're not going to get fat. You're not going to gain weight. It's very difficult to gain weight from eating a lot of broccoli or salad or any kind of vegetables. And as an aside, Green vegetables are the best for health, and anything from that family, the brassica family, so Brussels sprouts, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, those are the most potent anti-cancer foods.
Oh,
So
spinach.
anything that's green and from that family, those are the things that you should have a lot of. So when you eat those things, that's an investment in your health and it gives you back your health. If you eat things that are devoid of nutrients, it's not going to give you back any health. So there you go. There's no return on investment when you invest in crappy foods. And there's a lot of return on investment, which is health, literally the most important thing that we have, which is our health. If you eat the clean, good, organic foods the body's looking for.
Well put. Well put. And so on top of that, down the line, which is also in the return on investment thing that you were talking about, the healthcare systems, say in the US,
Oh,
there's healthcare debt, isn't there? That people are massively in debt for the surgeries they need to spend money on, or the medication. And I know the Canadian
yes.
system is a little bit different, but the way you put it, it sounds like it's the same thing, that you're still going to end up spending a lot of money on health later on if you
Yes.
go down the wrong route. Because, sorry, it's coming back to me now. The um, the practitioners that you might have thought were part of your health insurance in Canada aren't even there. Like, so speaking to someone like you, would it be outside of the system, so it's going to cost money, and then that's the whole return on investment as well, that you're paying money now for the organic food, but later on you're saving the big bucks, the massive bucks that could actually put you into debt forever. Um, Not to be too
Well,
down about it,
in
but
the United States, so Robert Kiyosaki, for those of you that know him, so of course he's massive investor. So Robert Kiyosaki has talked about this, and it's a thing. Um, in the United States, they have medical bankruptcies.
yeah, that's it.
So it's pretty much what I was talking about earlier. So if you could put in $1 every day and you don't feel it as much, or you're going to have to go and pay a $200,000 bill
Mhm.
down the line when you would have not invested in your health and now you have cancer, and your bill for the cancer treatments is going to be two, three, 400, $500,000. And who has that money put aside to be able to go and
That's it.
say,
Yeah.
oh, well, I knew that I was going to get cancer. Here's $200,000 because I have to pay this bill. No, so a lot of people lose their homes because they go and they try to get their bills paid and they have to remortgage their homes,
Mhm.
and then they have to sell their homes. And again, like I've already talked about what happens to the family unit when you have to go into that kind of debt. And as for the Canadian, the Canadian system, and there's so much that people don't know about the Canadian healthcare system. So the Canadian healthcare system, people believe, is free. I just want to be on the record to say this. Like, if you have to really dig deeper, there's nothing free about it because we pay taxes. So it's free because the government decides to take taxes from you, and then they are the ones who allocate the money to be able to fund the healthcare system. But much like how it always is, would you trust a thief with something with your house when you know he's a thief? Would you leave your door open for them to come into your house? Probably not, because you're going to be like, well, you don't have such a great track record. So if you look at the Canadian healthcare system, so when I lived in the United States, of course, everything was like, I remember I would go and I would pay. I did blood work that I paid out of pocket, but it's instant. They give you the results. You don't have to wait. Well, here in Canada, so I saw just the other day, there was a statistic, I believe, so I don't want to say, but it was in the tens of thousands. I believe it was 28,000 people died waiting for surgeries.
Jesus.
So, free healthcare. Okay, remember.
Yeah.
And I know my mother, when she needs an appointment with and even for myself, I had a problem with my ears. So I wanted to go and see a specialist. So when I called, so I saw him in October last year. And when I called to make an appointment, they offered me an appointment in September of the following year. So that's a 1 year wait,
Yeah.
11 months to see this same doctor. So if people think that the healthcare system that's free is of any benefit to anybody, look deeper at the statistics of how many people suffer, how many people don't get their surgeries. And it should actually be that you shouldn't need a surgery
Yeah.
if you invest ahead of time. So be proactive about your health, that at best you need minute things. So when I came back from the United States, of course, I was flabbergasted when I had to wait for these appointments because I wanted to go to my doctor to say, okay, I want to run my blood here. And of course, here it's free. So I had to wait for an appointment with my doctor.
Mhm.
Then I had to wait to go. And when I got to the place, I had to wait in line until they took me, which was another about 45 minutes because they only had two people drawing blood. Then I had to wait for them to send it to the lab, and then I had to wait for my results. My results went to my doctor, so I had to book another appointment to go to my doctor. It's
So
such a
the doctor that you might
convoluted,
even have access. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a crazy, crazy broken system. And if you were to be able to step away from it and look at it, it's like literally collapsing because so the issue that I have with my ear when I was in Florida, I got a lot of sand and water in my ear. So I came back and I said, I really need my ear cleaned because I can't.
On
In
the
the
beach.
United States, they would do it from you going to the beach. Yeah.
Right. Can I just say one thing? I don't feel sorry for you because I'm in rainy Ireland. So
Yes. So
I do. Of course, I feel sorry for
yes.
you, but you
Yeah.
know, you've
But
got a
these are
big
small
problem.
things. I
Yeah.
feel bad for the people that have to go and they are dealing with cancer
Yeah.
or with heart, like cardiovascular disease, or things that are so important and they end up dying. They wait for
Everything.
transfusions, transplants, and they end up dying because this is the system. So when I got back from the United States and I went and I said, I really need to get this year looked at, they said, oh yeah, we can actually clean it out for you. It was a long wait at the clinic, but I had to pay for it. So the Canadian healthcare system is not the free thing that the whole world believes it is. I really want people to look deeper, do your research so that you could see how important it is that you invest ahead of time so that you don't end up having to be, financially bankrupt because you have to pay to reclaim your health. And I know that a lot of people are like, because I get this a lot too. Are you covered by insurance? Like, are your services covered by insurance? Of course not. The powers that be don't want people like me that can get you healthy to be
Hmm.
working because I don't prescribe you a drug.
Yeah.
But if I was to be able to prescribe you a drug, they would love me and they would cover me. Of course they would.
Mm.
But I'm not a practitioner of managing a disease. I'm a practitioner of reversing the disease or eliminating the disease. So the system doesn't accept people like us. So yes, we are an investment. We're out of pocket. You have to pay for our services. And we also had to pay for our education. And it's not by any means cost effective to go to school to study what we've studied. Um, but if people find that what we offer is not worth the investment, then you're going to end up having to pay tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars down the line. And then it's going to be an if you get your health back.
Hmm.
So, yes, it's very important that you start proactively and you invest. I mean, I think you could probably do a section on this. Invest little by little to build your portfolio so that when you do get to retire, so later on in life, when it's the most important, when we're older, when health is even more important,
Yeah.
that's when you want to be able to cash in.
Yeah. Dead right, Simone. Dead right.
Yes.
It's oh Yeah, yeah, it makes absolute sense. And even the US side of having to spend big money on it, you can get good healthcare, but the tricky thing is burning yourself out along the way to make the money to be able to spend it on the healthcare that may or may not work for you, which is completely known as every other healthcare um, industry around the world, that it's overly um, it pushes drugs on you, all
Yeah.
types.
Yeah.
And
The pharmaceutical industry is very powerful.
yeah,
Very,
um,
very powerful.
one of my very close family members just had a stroke about a half a year, no, 5 months ago, and he's done stents, and now he's about to do a bypass because it's finally coming up that he needs to do the bypass and that the stents won't work. Um, and just after the stroke, he was on 14. So I had to fly to Germany to help, right? Um,
Yeah.
where he's based. And I went to the GP with him. He was, okay, sorry, I have to step back from this. The first night he came out of the hospital, I was in the house. And next thing, he, middle of the night, got the doorbell rang. And I was like, Jesus, what's going on? 4 o'clock in the morning, had to run down to the door, and I realized it was him that was standing outside the door. And I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I just went for a walk and I forgot my keys. And next thing, it's like, okay, thought it was odd, went to bed. In the morning, I woke up and he had all the shoes were lying everywhere on the ground in the hallway. The mirror was off the wall, and stuff was just scattered everywhere. And then he got up. I had made breakfast, and we were sitting there, and I was like, just very curious, what the hell happened? And he goes, yeah, just quite relaxed. And I go, hey, what happened with the mirror and the shoes? And he goes, yeah, I was kind of out of it with the drugs they gave me from the hospital,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he, for his life, could not remember that his outdoor shoes were just outside the door. So he took all the shoes out of the shoe cabinet, like literally like 20 pairs lying around.
Yeah.
He thought that behind the mirror was maybe his shoes, like a cabinet to open. So he took the
Oh,
mirror down.
wow.
This is a guy that's sober. Like, this is a guy that doesn't do drugs or anything, maybe a few beers every so often, and he lives on his own. So
Yeah.
if I hadn't been there, God, I was thinking, I can't fly back to Ireland and leave this guy if he's like this. Like, this is horrendous. So we went to the his doctor, his family doctor, to see like what was going on. Obviously, it was some um, cocktail of
Medications.
medication that he had been given, but it was 14 altogether, 14 different medications he was on. A
Yeah.
bunch of them were reacting to each other very
Yeah.
badly. There was a bunch that had been given to him in the hospital where they hadn't asked him what he was already taking every day. So
Yeah.
he had the old stuff, the new stuff, and then he went to the pharmacy, and his GP gave him a medical doctor gave him another batch of stuff. So when we were talking to the doctor, it was a replacement doctor for it was a Sunday that we went in, and she goes, "Oh God, that's an awful lot of that's
Yeah.
bad." And then we were walking out the door, and I said, or he said, "Oh, there's another thing that I'm taking." And whatever it was, I can't remember the name. Like, it's very confusing because there was so many of them. And the second he said, "Oh, I'm also taking this," her heart sunk. She's like, oh God, this is, oh, of course you're like delirious, you're going crazy. Of course you're blacking out. And because it's a complete cocktail of mad things that he's putting together that are also mixing together in his body. And we spent 2 hours after that trying to figure out which were the old things, which were the new things, which were the things that he was only supposed to take when in a certain circumstance, like if he couldn't sleep at night or whatever, take this. 2 whole hours of all these big long names. And when we went back to that doctor, who was the replacement doctor, we managed to actually to see her again, which was great because otherwise the constructive conversation we had about all of this stuff would have just gone by the wayside again with the regular GP. And we whittled it down to 4 that he could take or needed to take. And pretty much what's 4 minus 14, 8 were gone that didn't need to be there, but
Yeah.
they wouldn't have told us. We had to go to them and go, do we really need all of these? Because they'll just keep shoving them on you. And like that's really like sorry to, I don't want to scare the shit out of anyone, but that's what's waiting for you possibly in the bad circumstance.
No, I actually think it's great that you said that story because
Shocking, man.
you don't want people to have to learn the hard way because a lot of times, I mean, in the United States alone, and I haven't done the research to see how it is in Canada, but in the United States alone, um, I think medical errors based on even when people take their medications exactly as prescribed by their doctors, medical errors are the number 3, the top 3 in the top 3. So there's cardiovascular disease, heart disease as the number 1 killer, cancer, number 2, medical errors, number
Don't
3.
say.
So medical errors from doctors that are just like, oops, I had no idea that your body was going to actually, like, you're going to die because I've mixed all of these things together. So, and I had this conversation with someone just the other day, and I said, tell me how many people or what research is out there that could say to you, um, eating apples and broccoli and salads and green vegetables and real food as made by Mother Nature is the number 4 killer in the whole world. And oh my God, we should all be scared. I'm like, there's not one single thing anywhere on planet Earth that can prove that eating clean food is actually killing people. So there you have it. That's the moral of the story. For me, I'm such a big believer that people have to invest in their health. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I actually just posted the other day Dr. Casey Means. So she's a Stanford University surgeon. So she graduated from Stanford University. That's an Ivy League university. And she actually talked about how there's not a single medication anywhere that is actually health producing. So therefore, if you have a diagnosis with anything, there's not a medication that can actually get rid of that to heal you or to cure you from that disease. Not one single medication. It always goes down to food, so your diet, nutrition, and lifestyle. So those are the factors that will always be what you need. And she admitted to the fact that they are not taught how those two work together to be able to coach people, because in medical school, they are only taught how to prescribe medications. So that's where we come in. And unfortunately, we are not sort of part of anybody's health team. I'd be more than happy to work with people in that capacity to be able to get them on the right foods to see how much better they're going to feel, make changes to their lifestyle to see how much better they're going to feel. But that is my driving message out there, that you always have to invest in your health. It is the most health sustaining way that you can actually go through life and have an enjoyable life and be able to enjoy the good things that life has to offer. And at the very top of that, and as the foundation of it all, is always health. So without health, we're not going to be able to enjoy anything that we want to achieve, whether it's money, whether it's a career, whether it's a passion. If you want to become a race car driver, if you want to become a pilot, you still have to be. If you look at these people who do um, I'm a car enthusiast. So, Formula One, I mean,
Yeah.
I've watched Formula One since its inception, since the beginning. And um, those guys who actually, they have to be a certain weight. So they have very, very precise things that they eat to be able to meet the requirements. Elite athletes, they have like a SWAT team of health practitioners to be able to
That's
keep
the
them in
battle.
top shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
If those people who make the most amount of money use diet and lifestyle as the tools for them to get to the levels they're at, what makes you think that anybody else can get cured or healed through a pill, an injection, a surgery, and junk food and garbage beverages throughout their life?
Yeah.
Your body, your genetics work exactly the same as those athletes. So I rest my case. So that's my message for
Very well.
everybody out there. Invest and invest early. And I think that perhaps we could do another conversation where you can actually liken it, because I know that a lot of people are very responsive to, they want to make money. I mean, everybody wants to learn how to make money. Money, money, money. Like everybody's so invested, no pun intended, so invested in learning how to make more money because they feel that money is going to give them the thing, even though it's outside of you. They want to be able to have more money. So maybe we could have a conversation where we can make the alignment between how you invest to be able to get the ROI in money. And then I can say, okay, well, the equivalent of that in the health world is this.
Yeah.
So I talked a little bit about it in the, how you, if you invest with monopoly money, you're not going to get anything of value back. And just the same, if you invest in your health with junk food and nutritionally devoid food like products, you're not going to get health out of that. So it's exactly the same.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Yes, yes, the next conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll brainstorm a little bit, and
Sounds great.
try and put a structure together. Um, I'm very conscious. I actually have two people I know that have cancer right now. So,
Hmm.
um, and my very close family member who's about to have the bypass. What advice would you give to them, um, for diet and what they can do? Because if anyone's listened to this that has cancer, we might have scared them right now. But on the other side, food is a massive part of it that can very
Absolutely.
much heal you.
Absolutely.
And I know there's been books about, the cancer diet, what to really eat, and not to listen to the medical industry that's going to tell you just there was white bread and loads of sugary stuff in the hospital room that I was in.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
nobody. I mean, I'm going to just go on the record straight off the bat because I remember when I was in the hospital with my health scare, do not eat food from hospitals ever, 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 ever. And the last I had a client that I was working with out in California, and I was working with her, and it was actually her father who was in the hospital, and I advised her like, you juice for him and you take it to him to the hospital. Do not let him eat any of the crap that's in the hospital. I mean, e- even in my own book, I wrote like, if you want to poison somebody, maybe then you could say, go ahead and eat hospital food. I would never, ever recommend anybody eat anything from the hospital. It's not food. So that's number one. Number two, I really want to emphasize that when it comes to disease reversal, and I'm talking about the biggies, so the heart disease and the cancers and things of that nature, it's really, really important that you intertwine the lifestyle with the diet. So, for example, there's a study that was done. So, if you lack sleep, which is when, as I said earlier, that's when the body detoxifies and repairs. So if you for shift workers, there was an actual increase in cancers. I think there was a study done in nurses that were working the night shift. So the increase in breast cancer went up significantly. So sleep is very important. So I really want to emphasize the importance of lifestyle. So what I mean by that, if you have anybody that's got any kind of these biggies, the diseases of, just as I said, cancer or heart disease, any of the big ones, really, you really want to be able to, number one, immediately stop the foods you're eating that have gotten you to this level. Do not continue, because the reason why you're sick is because you've put crap into your body. So if you want to put out a fire, you're not going to continue to pour gasoline in there, right? Because that's going to keep the fire going. So you want to stop the continuation of introducing foods that cause damage to the body, because the body's already damaged. So at least stop the introduction of it. And that will at least give the body a chance to slowly detoxify and work through mitigating all those things, and start introducing actual foods that the body can actually extract the nutrients out of and start putting them to good use right away. So that's very important. But the reason why I said that it's intertwined with the lifestyle is because it's also important to sleep properly. It's really important not to have in your immediate environment chemicals, because if you're going to be inhaling the vapors of things that you use in your household to clean, like bleach or things of like those, are damaging. If you have scented candles and things of that nature, those are also damaging. They're just going to continue to do damage to you. So lifestyle is so important, and it's so intertwined with your diet. So both of those things in tandem. So a lot of rest, a lot of relaxation, and there's a lot of free things. I want to really, before we close off, because I know that we are sort of coming to the end of it, I really want to touch on, there are so many free things that people can do. So I know that the importance of food is super important, but there are things that you could do for free. So getting vitamin D. If you're able to get outside where there's sunshine, stay and expose your skin for 15 minutes and let that hit your skin so that your skin can convert that into vitamin D, which is not really a vitamin, it's actually a hormone. Put your bare feet on planet Earth, on Earth. So if you're on a beach, on the sand, if you're out on soil and grass, whatnot, not on concrete, not on a basketball court or anything of that nature, the actual soil, bare feet, so that you can actually get the electrical charge from Mother Earth. From yeah, so that's called grounding. So we want to discharge all that is damaging to the body and be able to charge from the earth with the right energy, right? So that's free. I mean, there's PEMF mats that are about $5,000, so you could do that, but I would rather you don't.
Yeah.
You could get like red light therapy panels and things of that nature, which are also an expense. But you could go and get red light therapy from, the full light spectrum from the sun. So first thing in the morning, get as much sunshine as you can from outside. I also think it's important to do water therapy. So cold water is actually really, really good, because what it does is it constricts your muscles so you get all tight. And then when you go into the relaxation, that constriction and relaxation, actually, it's like a pump. So it gets you to start pumping out the lymphatic system so that it can eliminate all the stuff that's, caught up inside of you. I also think like exercise can be free. If you could go for a walk, if you could jump rope, if you get a little trampoline, you can actually like just jump on that. So I do that daily for about 5 minutes. And what it does is it just pushes everything, even from up in the brain. And that's important to me for obvious reasons. I really want to be able to get everything to come down through the lymphatic system so that it can get eliminated. And the best elimination organs are the kidneys, as well as obviously the colon. So that's and one of the exit systems for all kinds of waste. So those are in the lower part of the body. So when you jump, it obviously pushes everything down. For the ladies, anything that's in the breast area, which is where a lot of women, with breast cancer, that we have so many lymph nodes in the armpits, in the breasts, like even down the neck, so that like that's just the highway of elimination of toxins. So there's a lot of free things that people can do. If you go for a walk, that's free. If you go for a jog, that's free. If you can even jump on the spot for a little bit just to get all of that out, take a cold shower. You're going to shower anyway, so you could do that. You could go out and get sunshine on your skin and on your eyes. That's also free. So there's a multitude of things that people can do for free. But if you're going to be stuck behind a computer, behind in front of a screen, and you're not going to go and take advantage of the things that are necessary for health, then don't expect for health to just come out of the sky and hit you on the head. You have to work for it. And I say this to people all the time, just like you want to be able to get a degree, you have to put in the work, right? 4 years, you apply yourself to it. There are assignments, there are tests, quizzes, exams. You have to do what it takes to get that degree, and people have no problem. And they pay for it too. They pay. I mean, education is never free, right? If you want to get, let's say you're in your career and you want to get, I don't know, you want to go through the ranks and you want to get promoted, you have to bust your ass for that. You have to put in the work so that your boss can say, I recognize what you're doing. I'm going to give you that promotion.
Yeah.
So everything in life, marriage takes work. Having children takes work. Raising children takes work and money. So everything requires work, just as does health.
I want to, just on that point, I'm dying to ask you about it. Reproductive health is a huge part of.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think we should perhaps do a show on that. That is the number one question that I get on my emails
Right.
and my Instagram messages. And I've made a few reels about this. Number one question from women. I would say 90% of the questions I get asked when people message me is around reproductive health, especially reproductive cancers, and mostly from women. I mean, for obvious reasons, because they know I can relate, but
Yeah.
definitely reproductive system issues are so on the rise.
No.
And at the risk of sounding controversial is because the COVID-19 vaccine has a special affinity for it. And I've
Simona,
actually,
you didn't just talk about vaccines like that, did you?
well, I interviewed Dr. Rob Malone. So he's one of the developers of the mRNA technology. I don't want to say vaccine, and I put that on one of the reels that I made. Don't think that Dr. Rob Malone has developed a vaccine. He has not. That was Pfizer. So that's the pharmaceutical company that developed the vaccine. He developed the technology. And when he developed it, and he was one of the contributors, it was actually intended for very good outcomes so that it can be used for healing. It was not to be used for vaccines. However, the pharmaceutical industry took it and applied it to that. So it was repurposed. But yes, so he, in that interview, so if you want to go listen to it, it's very sciencey because he is obviously like at that level. But he did say that, yes, it absolutely has an affinity. So the constituents of the vaccine, the ingredients had an affinity for the reproductive system for both females and males. And for those of you that want to do a deeper dive, go ahead and listen to the interview that he did when he was on the Joe Rogan show. So he talked about that there as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of information on
Yeah, I
that
thought that name is
for
very
women,
familiar.
how
Yeah,
it affected their menstrual cycles,
yeah.
how it affected like a lot of women that had gone already into menopause started bleeding. I had clients like that came to me for that very reason. So definitely that could be another 2-hour conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. The I was going to bring up the 1% effect. The since the 1970s, there's 1% decline in sperm counts, in
Oh yeah.
testosterone,
Yeah.
in 1% increase in erectile dysfunction, 1% increase in miscarriage, 1% reduction in total fertility rate across the board
Yeah.
over the last 50 years. Um, and all of it equates to 50% reduction in all of it.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you about, but maybe we'll save it for another day. Because
Yes, actually, that would be
it's a
great
big
because I
one.
really would
Yeah.
want to be able to inform people even how food choices affect that. So it's a multitude of assaults on our system that the body just cannot keep up and mitigate in time to be able to eliminate the risk of these things happening. So I would love to do a conversation on that. Actually, it would probably be so important because it's more zoomed in and people that are in that sort of field because of what they're being ailed by would be able to learn from that. So definitely, let's do that conversation next.
I'm looking forward to it, Simone. Thanks
Yes,
so much for your time.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Really enjoyed it. You're a wealth of knowledge, and
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about what I love most.
yeah, well, same. I'm very passionate about it. It was all interesting, so I'm
Yes,
delighted, and I'm
yes,
sure many people are like-minded in this, in all of it, because it's just life, isn't it? It's we're trying to live good lives,
absolutely. We
good
eat
healthy
every
lives.
day, so it affects us and it affects each one of us. That's what I tell people. I mean, if you're going to be eating every day, you might as well be investing at the same time. You can kill two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, so definitely we'll continue the conversation so that we can be able to educate people to invest in their health and be able to have the health outcomes that they really want.
Perfect. Thanks a million. I'll link everywhere I can find you in the description or the bio. And
Thank you. Yes,
um,
absolutely. Instagram is the best place. Of course, my website, simonegisondi.com. But Instagram is where I'm most active. So at simone.gisondi. And if you do send me a DM and I can't answer within the day, it's because I have a lot of them that I receive there. So my apologies in advance.
busy lady. Love
Excellent. Well,
you.
thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate the
Thank
opportunity
you
and I look
too.
forward to the continued conversation.
Same, exact same. Take care, Simone.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
Chris. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit the like and subscribe button so you'll see more of my content in the future. It would really mean a lot to me because I'm just starting out. Thanks, and see you soon.